Welcome to the Magnificent Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top marketing experts in the world and keep you up to date on all the changes and best practices to help you grow your business and stay on the cutting edge. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Tim Hayden, and Tim has more than 20 years of marketing and business leadership experience and is the founder of Neon Interactive, Game Plan in 44 Doors, and a catalyst for innovative change within some of the world's largest brands. To name a few, Dell, Bacardi, AMD, ExxonMobil, Hilton Worldwide, Kraft Foods, Edelman, amongst many others. Part social anthropologist, part strategic marketing executive, Tim studies communication behavior and how new media and mobility are reshaping all of business. From operations to marketing and customer service, he assembles technology, adoption, and communication initiatives that lead to efficiency and profitability. A past and current advisor to technology startups, Tim actively consults with entrepreneurs and ventures to capitalize on opportunities and shifts across many different industries. And today we are going to be talking about chatbots and artificial intelligence, how to get started, and what to expect in the future. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, just from reading your bio there and what we're going to be talking about, you sound like the man to talk to about, chatbots, artificial intelligence, combining mobile and technology and all of it together. So as I mentioned with you earlier, I have a huge learning gap to close here in this topic. So I'm expecting you to teach me and many others lots of good stuff.
Well, let's hope we can do that a little bit. The good news is that everybody, I don't care who they are right now or how long they've been doing it, they are learning and learning more every day on how this is all going to play out. Yeah,
and I'm guessing that none of us really quite knows yet, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But before we get going into details or future predictions or anything like that, just first quickly explain just what a chatbot is, and as well as define artificial intelligence, so we can have the baseline here.
Sure, and I think there is a bit of chicken and egg that goes with it, Dave, and I think artificial intelligence, which has been around for decades, and it's basically training technology to be intelligent itself, and by taking tasks of that, I think you're able to model in terms of what people, customers, or employees do on a regular basis, what those tasks look like, and then having machines basically replace some of the human steps or the human activity that it takes to really complete those tasks. What chatbots do is chatbots become basically the interface, and that's really the conversational or the front end. And we'll get into it later, but these are some of the things that we know by names. We know by women's names, men's names, and we know them. We almost treat them as people. So the chatbots themselves are an extension of artificial intelligence. They in themselves have artificial intelligence in them, but they just are the interface. What you and I run into whenever we want to get into a chat on a website, or we're using Siri or any of the other chatbot activations that are out there in the market today.
Gotcha. And I believe there are two different kinds of chatbots, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? And if so, can you define those?
Well, I'm not going to say you're mistaken by any means. I mean, you can believe what you want to believe. I mean, that's what Facebook and certain celebrities or politicians have us believing right now, right? But no, it's not just two different kinds. And I think you have to understand that what I said earlier, everybody's learning and everyone's experimenting right now. If you can break them down into several categories, there is really just chat as we know it, which is the conversational, entertaining way that basically a computer or software is emulating what a person would say. You know, the hi, the how are you, how can I help you, and asking you some basic A/B questions or multiple choice questions, and understanding your responses and being able to take you through a conversation. There's what's deeper than that, which is where triggers come into play, and triggers cause something else to happen. And the easiest way to explain that is when you're using Siri on your iPhone. If you carry an iPhone and you use Siri, because not everybody does all those things, not everybody has an iPhone. But the iPhone users, when they talk to Siri and they ask Siri to play a song, Siri then knows to go open up iTunes and to play that song, or open an app and then go to the app. So it's a means to an end. The trigger is a means to an end, and the chatbot is now having to know, basically be mapped with your responses to know what it has to open or what it has to do next. The other side of that is what is more just like search. I mean, if you think about it, it's a very human thing. When we don't know the answer to something, we go to Google. Most of us do. Some of us go to Bing. Some of us go to other search engines or Wikipedia or other sources of information. And if a chatbot, many chatbots are trained, if they don't have the answer and if they don't have readily access to what it is you've asked them to do or to look for, that they will default and go about searching on the web or searching within some type of search engine for an answer. So they're still providing utility for you, but they're only just doing that one hop step. And then the last thing that I'll just tell you is the much more complex integration of multiple information sets. And this is where some of the chatbots that you see being used on Facebook and on e-commerce websites, travel sites today, where it's not a human, but it is actually software that is leading you through the process of planning your trip and asking you what dates you want to travel, and do you like a window or an aisle seat, and have you thought about going to a beach destination? Have you thought about, and then being able to reconcile that with inventory that's available. And there's even deeper things that can happen when you're ordering a car, per se. You want to buy a car, and being able to match the trim you've selected with certain options based on what inventory is available within 50 miles and what colors are available, and matching that to some of the behavioral questions it may ask. Do you have kids? Do you enjoy outdoor sports? Do you live in an area that's going to require four-wheel drive? This is where the systems get really smart with metadata that is available based on your location, the device you're using, maybe even the time of day, time of year, and they're reconciling that with information that they may have on you as a customer, or that's specific to the product that you're looking at that time.
It sounds like even if people had, in theory, never heard of the word artificial intelligence or chatbots, that they might be using these on an everyday basis that they don't know about. You got Siri, I guess you got your Alexas. Can you talk even a little bit more about maybe some of the other common applications, common usages out there that we might not understand are exactly a chatbot with AI, but it is?
Let me tell you a story. I mean, my dad, when I was a young teenager, so probably 12, 13 years old, my dad was traveling a lot, and on a I don't want to call it a Post-it pad, because I don't know if their Post-it pads were around at that time, but there was a piece of paper right next to the phone in the kitchen that had the phone number for American Airlines. And when my dad was traveling, my mom would always say, "Why don't you call and see if your dad's flight is on time?" And even back then, so we're talking 1984, back in the mid-'80s, back then, I could call American Airlines, and it would be an automated voice system that would ask me questions on whether or not I was looking for reservations or flight status or lost baggage or whatever else. And it would lead me through questions and answers without me ever talking to a human for it to give me the output of what time my dad's flight would land. I mean,
okay.
I think you have to understand that being able to write a series of if-then statements and to put business rules and into to code that into software programs where interactions may take place. Computers do this already on their own, and software does this on their own in order to be able to provide you with any output whatsoever, whether that's media analytics or it's computing mathematical problems or it is just watching cars go by, you know. So what we're doing now is just starting to apply some of those same mechanics to how back and forth conversations would happen with people. And you're just starting to see that happen now that we carry a device with us 24 hours a day everywhere we go. And it was meant to operate on voice to begin with. And and we do a whole lot of text communications on it as it is. You know, it is only natural that we start to move this into social media and we start to move it into websites and landing pages where a search may ultimately deliver us. So,
gotcha.
You know, it's been around for a while, and honestly, what we're seeing today with it moving into social media, where so many people spend such an inordinate amount of their day, it is just something that people are starting to run into, and they're starting to realize that, hey, there is artificial intelligence. There are places that the software now inside Facebook or Facebook Messenger, to be very clear, is starting to interact with me as if there's a person there. So, you know, Microsoft has Cortana and Google has Google Now, and that's the big battle for the living room and the kitchen right now is what's going to happen between Alexa and Google Now. But don't think that Siri is just going to sit idle on your Mac or your iPad or your iPhone. You're going to start to see Siri pop up on Apple TV or even some of the smart TVs and the in-car systems that are there without even your phone being present. So it's just
it's convenient.
Fun.
It's nice. I can only imagine where it's going to go. Maybe all the way to that one movie with that guy who fell in love with his AI girlfriend. I think what was it called?
Yeah.
Anyways,
her.
yeah. I mean, Yeah, her. That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was a great movie, and I didn't see how that could have happened. You know, you can see. I mean, relationships are about emotional connections, and if you can somehow do that, it's not that far-fetched to see that happen one day. But now let's, you mentioned some big names out there, big usages of this, the Googles, Apples of the world. But let's reel this back into what a company can do, that's not that kind of company. So what are some things, what are some ways, media, small, medium, and then we can move on to large. And when I say large, I don't mean Apple large. I just mean large, bigger companies can actually start to utilize chatbots. And again, let's not get into the minutia and the details of how to set everything up and all that. But just in general, here are some ideas. Here are some things that you can consider that I've seen actually move the needle for companies. I'd like to maybe give some take-homes there.
Sure. No, I think that's fair. I mean, this is, I've just got through telling you a story about American Airlines 30 years ago. We're in a point right now where the democratization and the access, the fact that code is shared between what years ago would have been considered competing forces now, that it's becoming very reasonable and feasible for your corner store or your dry cleaners to start to institute chatbot technology within Facebook for sure. It's not limited to that. There's also, you know, if you just open Facebook Messenger and you start to search for chatbots or bots, you will find that there are hundreds of companies that are available, that have systems available from an app standpoint. It's in the App Store. I don't think they call it that, but it's the Facebook Messenger apps that are on the market today. There are hundreds of anywhere from $10 a month to $50 a month solutions that would allow a small business to start to automate so many of the frequent and common interactions that it may have with customers online. And, you know, I'm sure we'll get into that. How would you get started with that? But it is actually very reasonable to get out there and try to incorporate some of this technology to help you drive more efficient use of your time and to help you serve more customers on a regular basis.
Now, is that through Facebook, like Facebook Messenger and Facebook platforms, or would that translate over to a website, like with a plugin, or would you need to do that all on its own on your, you know, a different chatbot service that would plug into your website? So, I mean, does Facebook connect that way, I guess is my question?
No, these are apps that basically you can authorize to take over communications for your company's Facebook page. And okay. And you see where Facebook, if you visit many of these Facebook pages for companies, that is, not profiles for individuals, but pages for companies. And you've probably noticed over the last 6 months, it's become much easier to put a call now button or a subscribe button at the top of the page as part of the header. And what some of these companies, which are third party, this is not Facebook, some companies have done, and thousands of them are out there, have created applications that can now take over what happens when someone clicks on that button or hits contact us in Facebook. It does not take you to a website. It just goes over to Facebook Messenger, opens up Messenger, and that is a bot that is talking to you now, not a human that is interacting with you now. There are some of those same companies and many additional companies who are also using the same type of chatbot technology, not dependent or interdependent on Facebook Messenger, to operate on your website. And I think that's where we're seeing, you know, capitalizing on that natural behavior that people go to Google to search for something. And when they do, they click through and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and they have a question they want to ask. A chatbot becomes an incredibly powerful thing that you can have operating the immediate interactions that need to happen in that situation.
Gotcha. Now, I guess kind of talk about best practices, things to be scared of, not scared of, but I guess be aware of. With that, you know, we handled we're working with an account. We actually did put a chatbot on there, and one thing you had to be careful of, and I like to kind of get your take from your experiences, is people getting annoyed, you know, not at 1 in the morning, that's just a coup, like, oh, I'm glad to talk to anybody. But, you know, during normal business hours when you're chatting, you almost feel like it's disingenuous if it's not an actual person. I guess somebody could feel, well, we saw people feel that way. And unless you're a 100% upfront, forthcoming, hey, I'm a chatbot, I'm an Autobot, but I'll do my best to help you. What's in your experience? Do you save telling people it's a chatbot or an autoresponder until, you know, they ask some sort of question will indicate that response, or do you just come right out front and say, hey, this is what's up, this is what I'm doing, and I'll do my best to help you, you know, right here and now?
Well, you know, I think, and Dave, you and I have talked about this before, this is one of those emerging technologies in terms of the breadth at which it's being used in the marketplace and um, the proof points that are coming to market now for people to see what's possible, that I think you're best off, small business or large, identifying right from the first interaction that this is a chatbot, or personifying it, personalizing it with a name to call it. Alaska Airlines has Jenny is her name, and she'll help you right there. I just got my notice that my Virgin Gold status transfers over to Alaska Airlines now, and while I'm over on that site, she pops up and she asks me a few questions and helps me with that, and I understand already, and I say they let me know that she is a I forget what they call it, but some type of assistant that helps me understand immediately it's not a real person. I think you need to do that.
Okay.
I think you need to do that because we've already been down this road before when everyone offshored their call centers, and there was a lack of empathy with people that were in another time zone who didn't understand where you were, or perhaps had an accent that just made it difficult for you to understand them. And the same type of frustration in terms of understanding the full breadth of what people would ask or what kind of questions may pop up, and then literally training and having a chatbot ready to respond to those questions. That's that long first mile in terms of starting to use technology like that.
Yeah, that's great advice. I've always kind of been on the fence about it, and then right when you started saying it, it just became clear. To me now, it's like a stupid question. Of course, if you personify it and you give it a name, people, not only are you, full transparency, and who's going to get mad at that because it's just an additional customer service feature, but we're used to that. We're used to, Siri, we're Alexa. We're used to it as well. So, yeah, it just makes complete sense. Just give it a fun, creative name and say, hey, I'm here to help you, and do it. Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for that advice. I appreciate that. Now, can you also explain to me the machine learning, or I guess, as far as the artificial intelligence goes, is machine learning part of the growing artificial intelligence, or is it always, if they ask this, if one of these keywords or sequence of words comes up, this is what, basically a lot of, hard manual labor going in there and always identifying and continuing to build up. If this happens, then this. If this happens, then that. Or does machine learning, is it built into some of these apps? Is it built into, how they continue to function better and better? Can you explain that a little bit? And
Sure.
Am I clear in that question?
I think you are. Categorically, people talk independently, one of machine learning, the other of artificial intelligence. And, machine learning is watching how a piece of software is executing its actions, and it is understanding where it can build efficiencies and how those actions are committed. It can also, machine learning is also where different actions, whether it's the user experience, the buttons you push, the way you use the keyboard, the way that you search for things, and perhaps even your location or the device that you use the most whenever you are using a specific software or application. Where machine learning comes into play is that over time, it is taking these inferences. It is taking all of the observational, if the machine itself could observe. It is watching where there is friction. It is watching where there are new ways and more efficient ways to compute an answer or to compute an action. And it's really starting to learn you. And I think you've said it a few times. This is where, Siri is training us as much as we're training Siri. And deep down, back behind what you're seeing on your screen, there is software that is resetting itself to understand maybe your dialect and the way you pronounce certain words and the way that you use certain apps on your devices. And as it does, it's figuring out a way to provide much more succinct solutions to you, whether it's answers or it's directions or it's some type of computation or information from some third party. So I think I think the word of warning here to everybody is that, as we've already established on this call today, on this podcast, is this has been around for a long time, and now that it is out there in the public and it is so widespread in its application and how people are using it, I honestly don't think anyone should be surprised that we start to see faster iterations of the devices and the applications and the web services that we use. These things are only going to become much more fluent in the languages that we use. They're only going to become much more hasty in the delivery of what I would call consumer delight. They're going to be able to provide you what it is you're looking for and provide you the answers that you seek on a much quicker basis, and that's going to cause the user experience to change, and it's going to cause honestly the devices ultimately that we carry. And you're already starting to see that happen with wearables as one iteration of that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, you've mentioned, different technologies, chatbots. Do you have any favorites, like for a small business? And then, do you have any favorites as you grow and, there's different apps or different chatbots that really go deeper into the AI side of things? I mean, do you have any favorites to point people to based on, budget, I guess, and application need?
Well, I think I really have good news here for anybody who's listening, and it is, if the information in terms of your menu of products and services and your business address and your phone number and the information that you know, and let's step back just a second. If you have access to understand what are the terms people use most often when searching for my business, and Google Analytics can provide this to you. What are the search terms and the search strings people are putting in Google before they land on your website? How did they find you? What was the term that they used? If you're able to do that, and you're able to also characterize what are the most frequent and common customer complaints or customer issues or customer questions, period, good or bad. If you're able to get that, which is something everyone should be doing anyway, if you can start to really organize that and make it very clean, then the way you use Google and the way you use Facebook and the way you may use Yelp, if you're a business that realizes quite a bit of traffic or inquiry from Yelp, if you're able to combine those insights with how you keep your profile clean and the information about your business clean, using those most popular of search methods and utilities, they're going to do most of the heavy lifting for you. So the good news is that this isn't going to be such a game changer that you're going to have to invest many, many hours of diligence in trying to figure out a whole new mousetrap. That's not the case. Let's look at current behavior, and let's understand that there's a new trend that people expect things more immediate. They expect clearer answers to be much more fastly delivered and and clearer. I would say, you know, if you can just understand your expectations from a customer standpoint, what your customer expectations are, and you make sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure that you're following best practices with Google and with Facebook and with anywhere else that you want to be accessed from or listed in. What happens from an artificial intelligence standpoint or a chatbot specifically standpoint will bolt on so much easier, or when they start to productize it, and I say any of the aforementioned companies start to productize it, you're not going to have to check any new boxes. You're not going to have to go through too much more work. I would say then until you get really fancy on some of those other deeper, more complex inter-system integration opportunities that will take place in the near future.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because that was actually kind of where I was going to ask, and I didn't know if there was going to be an answer or not, or if it just doesn't exist yet. But I was curious if there were any, current or upcoming technologies that you can utilize on top of chatbots with AI. I mean, is there any tie-ins there that you can speak on?
Well, there are firms out there that are developing chatbot solutions right now that, again, a chatbot being the interface of artificial intelligence, what we see, what we interact with. Those, and I'll give you one that's right here in Austin, Texas, Conversable. And what the Conversable guys are doing to automate for companies like Victoria's Secret, which I just read about the other day, is, there's a company that has 60,000 packages a day being mailed out to folks, and then they've got so many tens of thousands of people going in and out of the store. And basically what Conversable's been able to do is learn how to automate so many of those initial customer experiences and customer support or care. Someone gets something that doesn't fit, or it's not the same color as I thought it was in the catalog, taking the human out of that now and allowing chatbots to take over the situation or the interaction at that point. There are firms that do it, and like I said before, you go into Facebook Messenger and you look at the apps that are available to institute there. I think I think there's a sea of opportunity and a sea of vendors that anyone could start to use, whether you're a small business or a large business.
Cool. Now, when you were mentioning that, are you talking about like when a geotag or some sort of like when people walk in, it pops up on Messenger, say, hey, how can I help you? Is that what you're saying, or is it only instigated from the initial outreach from the human?
Oh, it'd be both. I mean, you go back to, instead of you having to tell Siri to play a certain song or to open a certain app, there is the meta instance of the fact that you have walked by this particular location, or you've been in this particular location so many times in the last hour or so many times a week, and then being able to then basically automate how a greeting could come out based on the example you just gave. How a greeting pops up and says, and you already see this with if for iPhone users that use Apple Wallet now, what used to be called Passbook. You go by, you drive by an REI, and if you're an REI co-op member and you have that card in your Apple Wallet, it will pop up on your screen, on your lock screen, and remind you that there's an REI just right there. All chatbots are going to do is make it more conversational and try to lure you in to the store or to a certain section or to certain products as they learn more about you and as they're integrating a lot of that back-end information about the customer, about the inventory, about the season, about other customers' habits that seem to match your profile. I mean, it's really fascinating. It's a little bit scary, but it's promising for companies that are looking for ways to become much more efficient with customer service and how they convert otherwise passive traffic.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you're just talking, I just keep thinking like, man, this could really help out tons and tons and tons of, big companies with good traffic, of course. I mean, you're going to need lots of data and lots of information to really make something bang up. It's not to say that even if you have minimal traffic on your website that you still can't help convert more by doing this, because it's just yet another form of communication, and we're all different. Some people like to talk, some people like to search, some people like to, communicate via email or whatever, right? So yeah, it's just another way. So, but for these bigger companies, yeah, I mean, you could help people fill out a whole grocery shopping list, right? Like, go down aisle 2, go down aisle 5.
Right.
I would tell you right now, I'd do it. It's just when I go shopping, it takes me about 5 times longer than other people, just I'm horrible. But so, yeah, it's just ideas like that, or how, you need to return something. Yeah, I mean, my mind is just going crazy. And if you're a big business, the opportunities should just sound like so much fun to tackle. Now, are there some current limitations for chatbots right now outside of, just the normal technology needing to continue to evolve as it always has, or is there anything specific you want to mention?
Well, yeah, no, I would say it's important to understand that this is not a set it and forget it way to interact with your customers. The limitations in what chatbots and artificial intelligence can do are really answered succinctly with they're not human. A human has the ability to measure your tone if we're speaking via phone, or to derive tone, look at what we can do to infer tone in terms of what you're putting in a chat or an email or on a social post. And sure, there are many that I would say there are many companies, many apps that are available right now that start to take in sentiment and start to take in what it can from a tone standpoint, but it does not replace the need for humans to be very iterative in employing new technology like this in terms of optimizing it over time and how you use it, but also to learn and derive insights to be able to become much more adept in serving the customer. And it's going to be humans, at least for the short term, and I call that short term probably 5 to 10 years, that must be involved as we move into a software-aided world where so much of our interaction between brands and stores is automated now through technology such as this. The humans will need to be involved for some time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, cool. As we kind of tie up here, what one big prediction do you have for us in this area?
I think as we look at autonomous vehicles, and not just self-driving, because there are self-driving cars on the market today, but you still have to have a human in the car. But look at how we, I would say not as much how we get from point A to point B, but why we have to go from point A to point B. And I think as you start to ask those questions, you'll start to understand how this technology would allow me to say that there's a day not too far from when we are not just going to our mobile phones or speaking to Alexa in our kitchens about what needs to be on the grocery list, but the refrigerator is now telling a system and an ordering system that the milk is low and there's only 2 eggs left in the container and we need more corn tortillas. Spoken like a true Austinite there.
Yeah,
and, right. But the refrigerator knows these things now and is now connected to a commerce system where it can order these things for you automatically without you even interfering or authorizing it to. Obviously, you would authorize it to make these decisions by itself, but then that a vehicle would automatically be at your house within the next 30 minutes or the next 20 minutes. The question is obviously, and there's no reason to think about it right now, but is it a drone or is it a car or is it a bicycle? You know, what is it going to be? But knowing that we're not too far from where some of the things that take minutes or hours out of our day right now, which are menial, they are just commonplace, repetitive things that we do all the time, how they can start to be replaced because machines are learning, because artificial intelligence is equipped to be able to sense when there's a need or there's low inventory or it's that day of the week or whatever it may be, and being able to go ahead and fulfill the goods, the services that we want. That will happen in 5 years.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean that actually doesn't seem too far-fetched, you know. I mean, I guess that's just because I'm saying that from this point of where we currently have already gotten to, you know. If I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, but from where we currently stand, you know, that seems like that absolutely is going to happen, you know, and that's just a matter of time, for sure. For sure. All right, Tim, do you have any parting thoughts at all before I have to let you go?
You know, I would just say I would tell anyone to think about what are the unintended consequences of starting to institute machines in terms of completing tasks and operating where humans otherwise would operate. It's not just a simple fact what a lot of the headlines are right now in terms of there are jobs that will be replaced by robots and computers or software. It's not just that. It is when you go into this, think about where the customer experience still needs that human touch. And you need that human touch to upsell people. You need the human touch to make people happy and trust you and have confidence in you. And I think that as you're starting to look at new ways of automating business and bringing artificial intelligence into that mix, that everyone must understand that there are going to be some responsible ways to do it. And it's, again, it's not just do we replace our workforce with machines. It is, are we sacrificing profit opportunities? Are we sacrificing revenue opportunities if we all of a sudden remove people from the front line and we put artificial intelligence up there? I think it's a question that each and every brand, each and every store, small business or large, is going to have to ask themselves and think before they really start to reinvent the way they do business, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And as you were saying that, yeah, I mean, you know, if you are just doing the chatbots, you know, have one on there. Would you like to speak to a representative, right? And then have that shoot a message, you know, to a representative to call, you know. But to identify the gaps of, doing it at all, you know, is that going to hurt you or help you? Okay, it's going to help us. Okay, now, but what are the unintended consequences? I think it's a wonderful, wonderful point to end with. Hey, this is awesome stuff. Get going with it, but think about this. You know, don't let something that could be amazingly helpful turn into something that actually hurts you. So that's a great parting thought. I really appreciate that. I hadn't thought to think about it that way. So I know that's going to help some people. Well, Tim, how can people continue to learn from you?
Well, I'd say, you know, the best places are on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm at the Tim Hayden. I publish and I share content through both of those social networks. And then at our website, Brain+Trust.Partners, really easy, Brain+Trust.Partners. On a weekly basis, we have new posts and we have third-party research that we share there, and a lot of collaborative research and insights that we produce with folks like Chris Boudreau at Ernst & Young or Edison Research. You know, we've got some exciting things that we'll be publishing there at Brain+Trust Partners, and anyone can stop by there and contact us. That would be really humans that will respond as of right now, or just get an idea of what we're thinking these days.
Cool, and spell it for just the listeners here. It's at the Tim and then Hayden at the Tim Hayden. All right, thanks, Tim.
Correct.
I really appreciate your time. This was fun. It's got my mind circulating on some things I'd like to maybe try to implement, and keep my eye on the future as well. Until next time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave.
All righty. Bye-bye.